Stage 2 is, what's the family? When you teach only the reliable information and no phonic exceptions, you can divide the entire English language into 4 simple groups, which we will call families. And they are sight families, for example, awk, short vowel families, for example, at, long vowel families with E on the end, for example, 8, and long vowel families with 2 vowels together, example 8. We're not going to introduce all of these families together. We're going to introduce just one group of families at a time. Meanwhile, what's the clue is going to act as a thread throughout. For example, we will introduce the first set of families. Meanwhile, all other words will be introduced with what's the clue. Then we will introduce the next set of families. And meanwhile, all other words will be introduced with what's the clue. We will introduce the next set of families. Meanwhile, introduce all other words with what's the clue. We will introduce the next set of families. And meanwhile, all other words will be introduced with what's the clue. When all of these families have been introduced, we will then show the children how to proceed independently. The first set of families will be the sight family. Materials needed. You will need a set of flashcards. On the front side of the card will be the sight family. On the back side of the card will be a key word. These are called the sight families because you can't sound them out. For example, if you were to sound this out, it would say alk, but the actual sound is awk, as in talk. Or if you were to sound this out, it would say igt, when the actual sound is ite, as in night. Therefore, these families have to be memorized by sight. However, they're considered phonetic because their sounds are consistent. For example, awk, talk, walk, chalk, stalk. Or ite, night, light, bright, flight, and so on. Now we're going to teach only one sound for each sight family, as indicated by the key word on the back of each card. For example, this sight family has 2 sounds, but the key word is zoo, so we will teach only the sound oo. Now, we are going to review all of these sight families. This is the key word, Noreen. What is the key word?
Day.
So this would be?
A.
The key word is?
Zoo.
So that would be?
Ooh.
The key word is?
New.
So that would be?
Ooh.
The key word is?
Car.
So that would be?
R.
The key word is?
Boy.
So that would be?
Boy.
The key word is?
Oil.
So that would be?
Boy.
The key word is?
Now.
So that would be?
Ow.
Now, this family has 10 sounds, believe it or not. But we're going to teach only one sound. What is the key word?
Out.
So therefore, we will teach only the sound.
Ow.
And you'll see how much easier it is when you teach only the reliable facts. The key word is?
Found.
So that's going to be?
Found.
The key word is?
Night.
So that is?
Ite.
The key word is?
High.
So that is?
I.
The key word is?
Her.
So that's? The key word is?
Sir.
So that's? The key word is?
Fur.
So that's? The key word is?
Ball.
So that's?
All.
The key word is?
Way.
So that's?
A.
The key word is?
Wait.
So that's?
8.
The key word is?
Saw.
So that's?
Ah.
The key word is?
Auto.
So that's?
Ah.
The key word is?
Caught.
So that's?
Ought.
The key word is?
Thought.
So that's?
Ought.
The key word is?
Range.
So that's?
Ainge.
The key word is?
Station.
So that's?
Shun.
The key word is?
Mission.
So that's?
Shun.
The key word is?
Walk.
So that's?
Ought.
Procedure. Now, these sight families are going to be introduced as they are needed in direct relation to whatever reading materials you are using, because we can't introduce these all at one time. Therefore, you're going to look ahead on your reading list, and when you see a word that has one of these sight families, a few days beforehand, you're going to introduce that sight family during the phonic period. For example, when you look down here and see that the word now is going to be introduced, a few days beforehand, introduce the family ow. When you look down and you see that the word may is going to be introduced, a few days beforehand, introduce the A family. You see that the word toy is going to be introduced, a few days beforehand, introduce the oi family. When you're ready to introduce a word that has a sight family in it, you're going to introduce it with the following technique instead of with what's the clue. You're going to tell the students what letters to underline, and you're going to say, what's the family? For example, you're going to say, underline OW. What's the family?
Ow.
What's the word?
Now.
Underline AY. What's the family?
A.
What's the word?
May.
Underline OY. What's the family?
Oi.
What's the word?
Toy.
Underline AR. What's the family?
R.
What's the word?
God.
All right, underline IGHT. What's the family?
Ite.
What's the word?
Night.
Underline ALL. What's the family?
All.
What's the word?
Ball.
Underline OU. What's the family?
Ow.
What's the word?
Out.
Underline ALK. What's the family?
Alk.
And what's the word?
Talk.
Very good. Now, we're going to use the following procedure for teaching these site families. As usual, it will be teach, reinforce, and test. Now, teach. You're going to hold up the site family that you're going to teach, and you're going to say, this is called the site family because you can't sound it out. It says ow. Then you give each student a piece of paper, and you proceed as follows. Please take a piece of paper and follow along. At the top of your paper, write OW and put a line under it. Now, we're going to sound and write that 4 times. Sound and write. Say ow, 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 ow. Now, add an N. What's the word, Noreen?
Now.
Add an H. What's the word?
How.
Add a C. What's the word?
How.
Add a B. What's the word?
Bow.
Now, would you please read that back?
Ow. Now. How. Cow. Bow.
Very good. Even though you cannot sound out these site families, there are lots of hints that will make them very easy. For example, when you introduce A, you can simply say, look at the A, and it says A. Or when you introduce ite, you could hear the I and the T. So these will really not be that difficult to memorize. If you are using reading materials that has a very long time span between the introduction of site families, introduce these periodically. For example, 1 or 2 a week, because they will be very, very valuable for independent reading, and you want to cover the whole set during 1st grade, or at least within a few months with older students. Now, each day you're going to review these site cards during the flashcard review as follows. The teacher will say, why are these called the site families? And the children and the students will respond.
Because you can't sound them out.
And then you will flash only the cards that have been introduced. For example, this says,
Ow.
and that's it. That leads us to reinforce.